Greetings. My name is Karen Schwind. I am a registered nurse and just recently retired as Health Services Director for New Braunfels ISD, which is a small school district in Central Texas. So I wanted to share with you today a few thoughts about interviewing for a school nurse. With 28 years experience in school nursing and 20 of those being as a director, needless to say, I've done several interviews, and I hope what I have to share with you will be very helpful for you in your work. First of all, because we're dealing with nurses who are working in schools, it's really essential that you collaborate with the principal or whoever it is that the nurse will be working with and reporting to. That may be assistant principal, but most likely it is either the principal or the assistant principal. So you want to touch base and collaborate with that person. Be sure that they realize that your purpose in hiring the nurse is that you want to be sure that this individual is capable of doing the job, and that is doing the job of a nurse. While the campus staff will want to be responsible for making sure that this person is appropriate for their campus, that they'll work well with their campus, and that they'll be able to work on a side-by-side, day-to-day basis. So I do like to take a look and pre-screen my applications right off the bat of looking at those applications, hoping you have access to those from Human Resources. I do like to look at those for school nurse experience. If they don't have any school nurse experience, I like to look for the diversity of experience. So a range of different types of nursing positions, particularly those where there's some critical thinking skills like working in critical care. Particularly home health nurses oftentimes, again, because they work independently, very similar to the way the school nurse works. And I always try to avoid a new graduate. A new graduate could be a good hire if you have the ability to mentor a new graduate on a regular basis. But more times than not, someone who has experience is going to be a much better candidate. Next, this is an extra step I've always done, but I find that the principals really appreciate it, and that is that I create a spreadsheet for the principals. Depending on how your application process works, Human Resources may or may not be able to provide this for you. Rather than looking at multiple different applications, I like to create a spreadsheet where I include the nurse's name, their degree, whether it's an associate's degree or a bachelor degree or a master's or higher, what school nurse experience they do have, if they do, how many years they've been a nurse, and then anything outstanding on the application. That would be critical care experience, particularly emergency room, intensive care, coronary care, and surgical, as well as labor and delivery. And then after I create that spreadsheet, I share that with those that will be doing the interviews. And from that sheet, I actually try to list all of the applicants on this spreadsheet so that I'm not making the decision myself of who to interview, but the spreadsheet will speak to the experience and the individuals. So then I schedule the interviews. Either I schedule them or I communicate with the principal and the staff. Many times there's an administrative assistant or secretary that will do the scheduling. So again, communicating and collaborating with the campus staff is really important. If there are a large number of applicants, you could consider some pre-screening questions that you might ask them to filter out those that you'd like to interview. And then prior to the interview, I do always like to check their nursing license for accuracy and currency, and to be sure that there aren't any disciplinary actions taken against their license. The interviewing committee primarily should be the principal and or assistant principal, depending on who the school nurse will report through, an administrative assistant or secretary, office manager type of a position, your supervising or your lead nurse, whoever this nurse will be reporting to from a health services standpoint, and then the health services director. Interview questions, I like to have the nurse that I'm interviewing tell us a little bit about themselves and their experience. So I just give them the floor and allow them the opportunity to share. I will ask several role-playing questions specific to school nursing, and that is in particular because the school nurse role is so independent and autonomous. So I'm looking for ways for that nurse to be able to answer those appropriately. Also ask about certifications. You know, is this a nurse we're going to hire and then still have to send for state spinal screening, hearing screening, vision screening certifications? If you're doing a diabetes screening for type 2 diabetes, are they CPR trained? Are they an instructor? So those are all very important questions to ask. And then I like to have the principal talk about the campus and the climate and the expectations of the campus, whether there be a duty involved, whether there be before or after school activities that the nurse is expected to attend, what staff meetings look like and which staff meetings the nurse would attend. And then as the director of health services, they would address the nurse team and the expectations for participating as a team member of the district team, nurse team. I also like to discuss employment contributions, Social Security versus the state teacher retirement. So depending on what state you're in, would determine what employment contributions are taken from the paycheck. And it's important, particularly for a nurse who's coming from the hospital setting, who's been contributing to Social Security. As an example, in the state of Texas, you don't contribute to Social Security when you come to school, but instead you contribute to the teacher retirement system. So those are important pieces that nurses need to know before they make a decision about whether or not they're going to accept a position. I always ask if they have any questions of us. I give them my business card, and if there's any additional questions that arise, they can email me or call. And then I like to share a timeline of interviews and when they would expect to hear back from us. If the salary comes up, I do like to always make sure that they divide the number of days that they're working. So for instance, you divide the number of your salary by the number of days you work, like 187 days, because it's really not a full-time job when you have flexibility in the summer, the holidays, and the weekends. So I hope this is of help to you. Thank you so much for your time and for listening.